Get ready to sprinkle some holiday magic with this charming Lucy Retro Apron. Designed to pair perfectly with upcoming pageant patterns, it's also ideal for creating those precious mommy and me moments. Imagine you and your little one baking holiday treats in matching aprons, just like a scene from your favorite Christmas movie. Today we'll be sewing the incredibly versatile Lucy Retro Apron. This apron can be made up to 8 different ways by mixing and matching the pattern pieces, and that doesn't even include the endless variations you can create with embroidery, fabric choices, or trim. Let's start with the supplies and materials you'll need. Bib fabric, tulip pocket fabric, long flounce fabric, medium flounce fabric, short flounce fabric, waitress apron fabric, necktie and waist tie fabric, bias tape, extra wide double fold. If you want to learn to make your own bias tape so that you can match your fabrics exactly, I do have a Sew Along Sunday tutorial in our free Facebook group. I'll link it below. I do also plan on filming a tutorial for our YouTube channel as well, so stay tuned for that. Rick rack, embroidery for bib and waitress apron. If you don't have an embroidery machine, you can use patches or iron-on transfers. I demo an iron-on transfer in this lesson. Iron and ironing mat, sewing machine. I demo the Singer Heavy Duty. Bobbins, universal needles, 90-14, thread that matches your fabric and bias tape choices, pattern, paper scissors, tape, straight pins, fabric scissors, rotary cutter, shape cut ruler, and self-healing cutting mat. Here's a fun trick for turning your ties. I use a knitting needle. You can pick them up really cheap on Amazon or at a thrift store. Pattern includes the long, middle, and short flounces, a waitress style apron, a line bib, and a tulip pocket. I provide measurements for the ties. Be sure to check your instruction booklet for the measurements you need for the apron size you are making. I also like to print the instruction booklet and place the pages in sheet protectors and a folder for easy storage. First, print the PDF pattern and line up the pattern pieces by arranging the rows and columns, matching the triangles in the corners. Cutting your fabric. Start with the longest flounce layer and work your way down to the shortest. Fold the fabric in half lengthwise, hot dog style. Then fold it over again widthwise, hamburger style. Position your pattern against both folded edges and cut your apron skirts as shown.
Needles dance under the lights so bright. Threads of gold and red take flight. Sewing dreams into fabric's heart. Making magic's where we start. Stitch by stitch, sing holly jolly cheer. Creating memories year after year. Embroidery of love on the dress she'll twirl. Gift of wonder.
Cut a slit down the center back and round off the bottom back corners. Lay out and cut the bib and pocket patterns on your fabric. Make sure to place your bib pattern on the fold.
And a spirit in every shred. She'll shine bright under Christmas tree. In a dress made with love from me. Stitch by stitch, sing holly jolly cheer. Creating memories year after year. Embroidery of love on the dress she'll twirl. Gift of wonder for my little girl.
Before attaching the neckties to the bib, consider adding a design to the bib and or the waitress apron. If you don't have an embroidery machine, you can use patches or an iron-on transfer. I'm using an iron-on transfer. I cut my transfer down to fit on the bib of this child-size apron. This is so cute and much faster than embroidery. Cut the neck and waist tie strips according to the size apron you are making. Using a shape cut ruler and rotary blade makes cutting strips easy and fast. After cutting the width, leave the fabric folded and cut off the excess fabric to length. Fold the fabric in half lengthwise, hot dog style, with right sides of the fabric facing in. Miter the corner of one side of both of your neckties and two of your waist ties, not the waistband portion of the waist ties. Place each of your mitered cornered waist ties pointing in so that each end of the waistband portion of your waist ties has the flat ends touching. Right sides of the fabric facing each other means if you are using a printed fabric, the printed side of the fabric will be facing each other. Sew with a 1/2 inch seam allowance to make your waist ties into one long strip with mitered corners at each end. Now fold the neckties and waist tie in half lengthwise, hot dog style again. If you feel more comfortable pinning, you can pin your pieces to keep them in place, leaving the center waistband portion of the waist ties open to insert the apron. Sew ties with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, leaving the top of the neckties open so you can turn your tube. When you get to the mitered corner, leave your needle down in the fabric. Lift your presser foot and pivot your fabric to turn. If you need more practice with stitching corners, I teach an in-depth lesson with a practice worksheet in my course, Sewing Fundamentals. I'll leave the link to that course in the description. Trim your seams back at the mitered corner to make the corners lay smooth when turned right side out. To turn the ties right side out, use a knitting needle. Place the sewn mitered corner onto the tip of the knitting needle and push the fabric back through the tube, using the point of the knitting needle to push the points out from your corners. Finger press your seams for your ties by rubbing the seams between your fingers to help smooth the seam. Place pins to hold the seam flat before top stitching. Top stitch a 1/4 inch around the neckties and waist ties, leaving the waistband portion open to insert the apron.
Silver threads in the candlelight, dancing shadows on a winter night. Needle whispers as it glides along. Tiny stitches singing a quiet song. Oh, the memories we weave with care, dreams made real with love to spare. Under the tree the magic grows, in every stitch this heart bestows. Snowflakes fall like whispers soft in this cozy room.
Fold the humps on each side of the sweetheart neckline towards the center to find the center point on the hump. Mark the center on each side. Pin your neckties in place, centering them on the mark made on the bib. Switch your stitch length to a basting stitch. Move your needle as far to the right as you can. Switch out your thread to match the bias tape as needed.
Under the tree the magic goes, in every stitch this heart bestows. Snowflakes fall like whispers soft in this cozy room so aloft. In this cozy room so aloft.
Switch your needle back to the far left position and your stitch length back to 2.5 to stitch down the bias tape. For sewing bias tape around the bib, when you get to the center point, take your time and ensure the tape is smooth and even. For curves, gently guide the bias tape around the curve, easing it in to prevent puckering.
This cozy room so aloft, for my daughter on this bench this heart bestows. In her smile the stars will shine, knowing she is simply mine. Pageant night the lights will gleam, but tonight we share this dream. This heart bestows, this heart bestows. In the hood
If you are adding rickrack or eyelet lace, now is the time to stitch that down to the bib. Leave 1 inch at the bottom on both sides to avoid bulk in the waistband seam. When stitching the bias tape to the flounces, I am using red bias tape, so I switch my thread again to red to match the bias tape.
Sitting by the window light today, a thread and needle softly play. Stitch by stitch the moments grow, a love so pure we sew and sew. In the kitchen where sweet laughter blooms, flower dances around the room. Matching aprons we proudly wear. In these threads our hearts we share. We're baking memories in the dough. Hand in hand we'll rise and grow. In our aprons, side by side, love and flower intertwine. Cookies, cakes, and laughter too. Every recipe is just me and you. Aprons tied with tender care, a bond of love beyond compare. Morning sun and evening skies, meeting dreams with eager eyes. Every crumb a tale to tell. In our hearts these moments dwell. We're baking memories in the dough. Hand in hand we'll rise and grow. In our aprons, side by side, love and flower intertwine.
For the tulip pocket, sew the bias tape to the top V of the tulip pocket first. Then place your side bias tape about 1/2 inch past the starting point of the top bias tape. Fold that back onto itself to create a smooth, clean pocket top. Stitch down. When you get to the bottom V of the tulip pocket, slightly overlap the bias tape to form a mitered edge. Stitch that down and continue around following the same method of finishing the top of the right side of the pocket as you did on the left by leaving a 1/2 inch tail of bias tape and folding it onto itself and stitching it down for a smooth, clean top. You can use just the waitress apron for your OOCs that need a small apron, like I did for this gingerbread Christmas wear OOC. For the waitress apron, adding rickrack and lace really makes the apron look special. Next, we'll prepare the flounces. Run a gathering stitch around the inner circle of each flounce. Fold your flounces in half and mark the center with a safety pin. Then gather the flounces by pulling the bobbin stay stitch threads on each side to create even gathers. Layer the flounces so the bias tape makes stair steps in the back. Match up the center of the bib to the center of the gathered flounces. placing the wrong sides of the pieces touching each other. Pin all your layers to one side of the open portion of the waist tie. Using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, stitch the apron flounces and bib to one side of the waist ties. After it's sewn down, bring the fabric to overlap on the other side and pin down to cover the raw edges, making sure you're keeping it even with the seam allowance from the ties that were already sewn. Stitch this side of the waist ties down, going all the way from seam to seam where the waistband is open with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once it's stitched in place, flip the bib up and pin to the upper portion of the waistband and top stitch 1/4 inch from the edge. Here's our completed Lucy Retro Apron. Make any final adjustments and you're ready to show it off. We'd love to see your creations. Share your finished aprons with us. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you get notifications when we post more fun pageant sewing tutorials just like this one. I'll see you soon.